What's going on, guys? My name is Marcel Flores. Welcome to my YouTube channel, One Dapper Street. Many of you may have known me before YouTube on Instagram. For the past 6 years, I've traveled to 30-some countries, posted over 6,000 photos, and sometimes I was on the road by myself. So today, I want to show you guys how I take photos by myself and also how I edit them. Before we get started, a big thank you to our sponsor for today's video, Samsung. This device right here, honestly, life-changing. I'm gonna tell you a lot more about it a little bit later in the video, but let's get started looking at what I pack in my backpack when I head out to take photos and edit them by myself. First and foremost, a camera. A camera will always be helpful. Yes, you can also do it with a phone, but today we're gonna be focusing on this mirrorless Sony Alpha 7R Mark III. The lens I'm using is the 24 to 70mm f2.8 from Sony, and then I also have a little ND filter on here. This ND filter makes the image a little bit darker, which is especially helpful when you're shooting during the brighter hours of the day where the contrast is a lot harsher. This helps minimize that a little bit. On the bottom of the camera, you'll see this is the base plate for my Manfrotto tripod. A tripod is also essential. You don't want to be playing around with balancing your camera on any stones. That I've tried before, I've failed, I've made that mistake. Please learn from my mistakes. I love this thing. It's super lightweight, it's really compact, fits into a carry-on suitcase, and is honestly really stable. So this is a big recommendation from me for you guys. The magic comes with this remote control. It's a Sony RMT DSLR 2 remote control. All you gotta do is turn on a little setting and this thing will work. It works impeccably. And yes, there's an app that lets you view the viewfinder of your camera and then take the photo, but you will only be able to take a JPEG photo. With this, you can actually take a raw image, which is where you have the most control over your photo. Once you've taken that photo, you also need tools to dump them. SD card reader, plugging into a USB-C, laptop, portable device, this tablet, and then to manage all of this, the Samsung T5 portable SSD storage. To walk you a little bit through the process, you walk around a new town, you know where you want to take your shot, so you start setting up shop. You get out your tripod, you get out your camera, and then you get out the remote control. Once you have an idea of what your shot possibly might look like, you try and framing it up without anybody in the frame because it's just you. So just hop in front of the camera, take a quick test photo, hop back behind the camera, and see how close you nailed it. Honestly, within 2, max 3 rounds of that, you should be able to nail the frame as well as the exposure, and you're ready to properly shoot. How this thing actually makes a big difference is you have a 2-second shutter button. Top center, that's what I use honestly almost exclusively when I take photos of myself, because 2 seconds is just enough to hide it in some pocket or behind your back, and then you can take the photo and not worry about having anything in your hands. You pretty much just repeat that process for however many frames you are trying to get, and honestly don't worry about nailing the framing. Especially with a high resolving camera like the Sony right here, you can mess it up a little bit and fix it in post. Crop a little bit, straighten it a little bit. Don't make it too hard on yourself. Sometimes there's a lot of people in the way, it gets a little bit difficult. It might be dangerous, like you might be afraid that somebody's gonna run off with your tripod, so you wanna get in there quick and out there quick. So please don't kill yourself over the framing. I think you'll be able to work a lot more magic in post than you think. And now I'm back home. For you guys, once you're traveling, this may be your hotel, Airbnb, and now it's time to manage some files and get editing right here. A very important step before we get into the editing is the file management, especially when you're traveling, and if you're shooting video, 1000% more. Because you don't want to fill up your laptop, you're gonna slow down the process, you want to be working with an external hard drive. And remember I mentioned this in the beginning, the Samsung T5 is honestly the best addition to my gear closet since I bought my camera, which that's just an essential part of the entire process. It's basically the size of like 3 USB sticks from 3 years ago, 5 years ago. It's about the size of a credit card, and it has 1 terabyte of storage. 1 terabyte is 1,000 times 1 gigabyte, which is absolutely nuts. The amount of space you have on this small thing is crazy, and it's not even the largest one. There's also a 2 terabyte configuration, and if it's too much for you, you can also get this in a 500 gigabyte and a 250 gigabyte configuration that are obviously a little bit more affordable. If you care about the actual design of it, you can also get this in multiple colorways. This is the black version, but it also comes in a blue, in a gold, and in a red color, so you can really have a lot of fun. I've seen people Velcro these to the back of their laptops, back of their portable devices, so that it's really just stuck to something and you can take it wherever you want to go. Really sleek design, fits in the palm of your hand, is drop resistant. Up to 2 meters, which is about, what, 6.6 feet is I think the exact number. So you can actually drop this thing, don't have to worry about it, slip it in your pocket, it's easily carried around and then also plugged in. It has a USB-C connector. Comes with 2 cables, either also into USB-C or the classic USB port. If you've read anything about this thing on the internet, you see that people are just in awe of what it actually can do. You've got read speeds of up to 540 megabytes a second and write speeds of up to 515. And best thing about this, 3 of them are being given away to you guys, so check out the description down below for how to enter and win one of these amazing little gadgets. I use this thing in a myriad of ways when it comes to photos, with this laptop, but also with my tablet. So let's hop into how I actually use this on a daily basis. So the way I usually would go about this is take my SD card to USB-C adapter, take my SD card, pop that in there, and then that goes into my laptop. On the other side, another USB-C to USB-C cable that comes with the Samsung T5. Once again, so small. And I plug it in on the other side of the laptop. You can put it on the same side, but it kind of feels like it's going through the computer here. And that's exactly the point. You are not at any point gonna have the photos on your laptop, which I think is great because that way you don't clog this up at all. And this is fast enough to support that without any issues while you're editing. So all you do is open up one folder for your SD card and then one folder for your hard drive. And in this case, I have a One Dapper Street folder on my Samsung T5. I will go into this folder, DCIM. And then here we have all the photos. This was a test, but we're gonna work with these test shots to show you guys how I would usually edit my photos. I'll select all of these, drop them over here, and you'll see that within lightning speed, this half a gigabyte has been dropped over to the Samsung T5. Perfect. So now we've got our backup on here. The files are still on the SD card should anything happen. And then we're heading into Adobe Bridge. That for me is where I start my editing process on a laptop. So we'll open up the T5, open up One Dapper Street folder, and here we have populating the previews for the raw images that we just took. Raw is a really important thing just because it gives you the maximum control over your photos. So I'll go through and then select which ones are my favorites, which honestly this one would be 1. I'll give that 1 star. That one would be a 2nd. And then I do like this. I'll have to crop in a little bit, but not to worry, I shot at max resolution, so that's gonna be more than fine for a photo that's destined to go to Instagram. Going out of here, I'll now select the ratings. These are my top 3 photos. I'll select all of them, press enter, to open up Camera Raw. This is why I like my general workflow working off of a computer, because Camera Raw is not something that you have on any mobile tablet or anything yet, and it's a program specifically designed for handling raw images. Lightroom is another one, but I never started editing on Lightroom, so I always go into Adobe Bridge and then Camera Raw first. Now, the first thing I would do is go into my user presets. That says basic pre-edit, and as you can see, all it really does is take the contrast out. That's what I want for a regular photo. I want to take the contrast out, bring the highlights down and up the shadows to create an image that is fairly flat. Because a flat image will later on, if I drop these to my phone, take any filters a little bit better than an already contrasty, already saturated photo. I'm going to apply this base preset to all of these right here with option S and then just pressing OK. So we have the same pre-edit right here. I'll make some adjustments before I would save them and then drop them to my phone. Now that puts most of the editing on the filter, which I use VSCO for Visco. But one thing that I do when I play with these photos is playing with the different color profiles that Adobe has pre-installed in their Camera Raw. And let's take a look at what these look like on a grid format. So I'll just jump to one of my favorites that I know. In the modern section, we'll have modern 8. I think this is a beautiful mood for honestly most of my photos, especially when it comes to harsher daylight shooting. So I'm gonna rock with this. The only thing I'm gonna do is put the amount a little bit lower since it is a very, very strong look. But same thing, we had that flat image before. All those settings are still there. This is not a preset, it's a color profile. It treats the colors differently before you adjust any of the settings. So this is one of my favorites right now, and I think any of these photos that had the Modern 8 filter on my Instagram were getting a lot of questions as to what filters I use and how I edit, so I figured I would show you guys this today. And same thing we did before, I'm just gonna go over here, select all photos, press Option S to copy the settings over, and then we have the edit on all 3 of my selects. Now looking at it, I think the lower one is a little bit of a stronger image, this one right here. And here we see that the exposure is a little bit too high, so quickly adjust it by just pulling the exposure down. Now it's just a question of cropping and adjusting a little bit. Enter the crop tool by pressing C, just going right over here and seeing how that looks. Enter to accept it, solid upper body, and then this one right here will do the same thing, press C. You'll see that my constraint ratio is already set to 4:5, which is the Instagram, well, not the only option on Instagram, but the one that maximizes the photo on any phone screen that you might be looking at, and then crop it right around here. As you see, we don't really have any issue with the sharpness. Like I said, we shoot at a very high resolution, especially once it goes to this size. It's even smaller on the phone, it's about this size. It'll look really nice and sharp, even though you cropped in a fair bit. You select both of them, press Command S for save, and then let's put this down as how I edit, save it at maximum quality, save, and then I'm ready to drop these onto my phone, and honestly, these are pretty much ready to go. Please let me know if you have any questions down below. I'm happy to answer all of them and go into a little bit more detail. Maybe we do more of a follow-up to this. I personally love tech and gear, so it's the first time you really have seen that side of me. But I really hope you had a nice takeaway from this. Please don't forget that you can win one of 3 of these. Check out the description down below. With that, I'd like to finish off. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I'll see you soon with the next video. Until then, as always, stay dapper. Bye guys.